to another episode of Going Beyond the Scale. Thank you for being here. This is a little bit of a different interview. I wanted to be able to interview my father, but as I will share in this little chat, that's not really possible. Yet my dad is very much happy, cheery, and alive, and he today is celebrating his 83rd birthday. So my father is and continues to be, even though he has what's known as vascular dementia, and he doesn't know who I am, who my sister is, my mom is, his grandchildren, friends and family. I mean, he's now at a point where he is living his life in an altered world. I don't know what that is, but he's very active and wants to get out and go about and do things. And so I was thinking about how could I celebrate his birthday, and my sister gave him a banana cream pie, which he loves. She gave him a birthday card that says Forrest, because he doesn't really know what dad means. And so since he can't share this, I thought, well, if I can share some of the things that our family has learned through this process, it would be a gift to him, because that's who he was to us and to everybody that knows him. He just is a very giving person. No matter what you ever needed, he would be there. It wasn't even money. If you needed money, he would do that, but it was more, he gave of himself. And I think he's passed that legacy along to all of us. So we're all glad he's still physically here. Unfortunately, he's not mentally here, but I'm hoping with this share today that you learn some things that might help you on your particular well-being journey. So all this started back let me back up for a second. My dad grew up as a very poor, hardworking farm boy. He lived most of his life right up to the time he was a teenager and started being a machinist. He lived a very challenging life, but through his entire life, he actually went up in different positions. He got new positions. He started new things, had new businesses. And when I was a kid in high school, we had a 7-Eleven for years. My parents were starting businesses. I grew up with a very entrepreneurial family. And if you follow anything that I share, you'll hear me talk about my personal goal, journey, my life, what I want for my family, for my kids, for my friends, for the people that I talk to, things I connect people with, is always about somebody finding out how they can create a life that they love and living it well. Because to me, if you can have a life that you love and live it well, you kind of figured out the sweet spot of whatever time is we have on earth. I think it's a great place to get to. So I never really realized until probably about a year ago, I've been talking about this, but I started reflecting on the fact that why did I think that, or where did I learn that from? And it was really from Dad, because like everybody, his life wasn't perfect. He certainly had challenges, but basically his life was a life that he loved. He loved his work. He loved his family. And up until about 2014, he was pretty scrappy, strong, healthy, had no real particular health issues. And then from 2014 on, he's had a series of challenges, and there's some things we've learned along the way that, quite frankly, it's good that we found out about them, because he probably would have passed away a lot longer ago, and even the dementia that he has now would have probably happened even faster. So that's the gift that I want to share with you today, and I hope what I share really can impact you and your family. So I talked to my sister. My sister was an RN, so she's more of the medical person in the family. You guys know I have no medical degree. I'm not a trainer, none of those things. I'm just a layperson, a dad, somebody that has lived a very interesting life. But in 2014 on Father's Day, my dad was over at my sister's house, and he kind of like, my legs are a little bit swollen. So he rolled up his jeans, and she said his legs look like elephant legs. They were all blown up, like edema or whatever. And that's the first time she took him to the hospital, found out that at that time he had AFib. And basically the way to talk about my father's health challenges over time has been what my sister would call kind of heart disease of the brain. We also knew that Dad always probably had sleep apnea. It had never been diagnosed. The reason why we knew he had sleep apnea is because he has the classic symptoms. Like he would go work really hard, he'd sit down chair, and like he's out like a light. I mean, he just like boom. I got diagnosed with severe sleep apnea on Biggest Loser and almost didn't make it on the show because it was so bad that I had this near fatal heart arrhythmia that Dr. Huizenga had found. I'd never had anything diagnosed like that. It scared the hell out of me. And I was like 1,000% compliant the whole time on the show. And Dr. Huizenga said it really helped me in losing like the 181 pounds that I lost, because apparently sleep apnea affects your metabolism. And so I wore CPAP 100%, and it really helped me a lot. My dad, for years and years and years and years and years, never was diagnosed with it. So when this whole thing started with him with the AFib, then he got a sleep test, found that he had sleep apnea, had a stroke in 2006. And about a year later, we went to see Dr. Amos, Dr. Amos Clinic in Reston, Virginia, because a good friend of mine, Karen Sates, Kim and I had been invited to a Dr. Amos presentation in New York, and Karen thought Kim and I would get a lot from it, since we live and breathe in the world of health and well-being, and we are like voracious students to make sure that we can share with people anything that would help them. And anybody who knows Karen knows she's like a master connector, and it makes sense now how I think of so many times in my life that Karen has connected me. So the reason why I bring that up and I do a shout out to Karen is because you never know in a conversation that you may have with somebody how that one thing that you might say to somebody will affect the quality of somebody's life. So one of the big takeaways from this conversation is, if you know of something or you think it could help somebody in your life, connect, share, let people know. Karen, when she did that, had no idea that her share would profoundly affect my father's health and well-being and our entire family. So I'm forever indebted for her doing that. So thank you, Karen, for connecting us to her. So what we did was we went down to Dr. Amos Clinic in Reston, Virginia. They have one in New York. They have one out in California. My parents are not really fans of being in Manhattan. So my sister, my mom, my dad, and I went to Reston, went to his clinic. Wonderful place. We were there for 3 days. And during that 3 days, we got a chance for them. And I'm not going to give you all the information. At the end here, I'll have a link to Amos Clinic, so you should take a look at it. I'm just going to tell you, every single human being, no matter where your brain is, what you think you're at, you should learn about the things that the Amos Clinic does, because everybody should know about it, because it's the most important thing. Let me tell you, my dad's body is fine everywhere else, but his brain wasn't working well, and Amos Clinics really helped him out a lot. So when we went down to Amos Clinics, one of the things that's so neat is they do all these amazing SPECT scans of your brain. They do it when it's under stress. They have all these little models that they do that show when it's at rest. They give you a way to have a mapping of your brain so that you start to understand where it's working, where it's not working. That way, it's kind of like they can help you traverse and find out what are the things that can be. And there's a whole world of things that we all can be doing for brain health. There's a lot of people out there that know about this, but Dr. Amos he's done an incredible job for people knowing about it. So go to Amos Clinic, you'll learn more about it. So here's what's interesting. 3 days later, we find out that they had a feeling that Dad, out of all the tests, they did all kinds of brain tests, they did blood tests, they did everything. They diagnosed that they had a feeling that he had Lyme disease, which he ended up having Lyme disease. They got the testing for that. He had it for years, didn't know it, so that was affecting him. He had some kind of strange mold or something in his blood. I don't know the technical thing for it, but they found that out and eradicated that. So when you go to a doctor and you're thinking about what needs to be done, most people think, okay, what's going to happen is you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to give you pills. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to get pills and get a medicine. Here's what was amazing, things that were really amazing. They gave him some supplement. After all this was done, they did the analysis, they shared it with us, and they told us what to do. And I have the whole prescription, everything that they have overall. They didn't give him any medicine. There wasn't any pill that he was to take. Basically, what the prescription was, they gave him some good, high-quality, pharmaceutical-grade supplements that would help him because his testosterone a little bit low, some other things that needed to be done. But here's what was most fascinating. What we learned from Dr. Amos' team is we all know sugar. We love sugar. I love sugar. We all love sugar. We all know that sugar to extremes is really detrimental to us in terms of our weight, our blood sugar, diabetes, all of that. We know that. And it's really tough because once you get that taste for it and craving for it, it's kind of hard to break it. But here's what's fascinating. What I learned from Dr. Amos' team was that sugar, the older that we get, our body, our brain does not metabolize sugar in the way that it would when we're younger. It's like when you're younger, you can do a lot of things in your body that you can kind of get some wiggle room around. As you get older, sugar is like poison. It's literally like poison. It fries your brain. So my dad had been over the years frying his brain because he had sleep apnea. And when you have sleep apnea and you go to sleep at night, you stop breathing, it affects your heart, affects your brain, and little by little, you are French frying your brain. So he had that going on. He wasn't a crazy sugar person. He wasn't a heavy drinker, but he was having enough carbs, enough sugar in his system that it was greatly affecting him. So how do I know it's true? Because, you know, doctor would tell you eat better, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, because they said, the three things that they said: focus on low glycemic foods like leafy greens and berries. Okay, that was one of the prescriptions. More protein, more fiber, and fat-focused meals. And then the one that we hear all the time: eat real whole foods, organic dairy, pasteurized meats. Okay, we know that. We hear that. It's not really very sexy. It's not really exciting. Here's what happened. He goes home, and I love my mom, but my mom's not, she's a really good cook, but she's not a really good listener. Kind of like a lot of times I'm not a really good listener. I'm more like my mom than my dad. He's a good listener. While she listened to the doctor and did what he said and had dad not eating a bunch of carby things, it was like that that Robin Williams movie a long time ago where people are like in comas or whatever, The Awakenings. Literally, with sugar out of his system, it was like all of a sudden he was vibrant. He wasn't as dull. His memory was better. That lasted for a while. And then, like we all kind of do on a well-being program or diet or whatever, little by little, he was doing fine. And then mom kind of loosened it up a little bit and didn't kind of follow it. And that happens a lot of times when somebody has the way that they lived. And so I'm not throwing my mom under the bus. I'm just saying that I can tell you firsthand that when Dr. Amen's team said sugar is poison as we get older, our family saw firsthand that that's the case. Now, I've locked that away in my brain to know that, so I've been little by little trying to move more and more away from that. My dad is only 19 years in front of me, so I know kind of like where I'm headed, and I luckily, knock on formica, whatever you want to call it, like my dad, I am pretty healthy, okay, overall. I will tell you though, the thing that's really kind of scary is the fact that I know that the brain health part, the part that had him get a stroke and then a second stroke and then like a third stroke. Luckily, he never got any paralysis because my dad is so active, he would be like a caged animal if he could move. So luckily, he didn't get that. But each time he had a stroke, little by little, his brain kept getting bruised. He just started losing more and more memory. And to the point, literally, like now he doesn't know, who any of us are. So where we're at this point in time is luckily, and here's the other thing that happened. Dad started getting, like my mom doesn't like to go out. So what was starting to happen was he wanted to go out, she didn't want to go out, and he decided he was going to take off. And so literally he would take off and the police would pick him up. Now, if you have somebody that has dementia or whatever, you guys kind of know you can't have your parent taking off because Protective Services is not going to be really happy about that. So luckily, thanks to my sister, who is an RN and knows the whole world of medical things and whatever, and we've been, as a family, actively looking, how do we have our family transition into this next stage of their life? Our good friend Gail, who was on Biggest Loser a few years ago, was great because she graciously helped my parents sell in a massive house, get out of that house, help them get up to Hanover, Pennsylvania, get into a nice smaller house that worked for them. So once again, people in our lives have been there to support our family. And the reason why I bring that up is that if you're in a place right now that you need some support, open your mouth and ask people, because you'll be surprised how many people will support you. So especially nowadays, that's the type of thing that you want to be able to do. So we got my parents in a better house. My dad started wanting to leave because my mom didn't want to take off. It was kind of hard for her to get around. Luckily, on my father's 83rd birthday today, we had a little chat with my mom, and my brother-in-law was there, my sister was there, and Kim and I were there by phone. And we got my mom to really agree to a plan that we have now, a 7-day plan for somebody, a woman by the name of Shannon, who has she's a certified nursing assistant. She also has a bachelor's in healthcare administration and policy. She's now coming in 7 days a week, middle time of the day, being with my dad, having him stay active, get out, take him out fishing, walking, whatever, giving him what he needs, which he needs to be active. He may not know everything that's going on, but because he's very physical, as long as he stays physical, he's satisfied. So I'm sharing that because it's the same type of thing. We're not experts in this whole field. This, for my sister and I, have been a new place for us to kind of learn and discover. She's really taken a lead on that, which I'm really glad and proud that she's done that, because it's made such a tremendous difference in his life as well. So the moral of this story is a few things. One is, you never know what's going to happen in terms of your health and well-being. Look at where we all are right now with this whole coronavirus thing. And if there's one thing that we know now, even if you're extremely healthy, you could still get something, and it could be very detrimental to your health. If you're not very healthy, and especially the older population, we know it's even riskier. So I would say that there's never been a better time for every one of us to make sure that when we're, you look at your bank account, your balance sheet, all this other stuff that you do, you might want to take an assessment of your health and well-being assets that you have or don't have. Who are the connections that you have that maybe you can reach out and start to kind of chart out what can you do with your well-being to make sure that you're prepared. You have a little bit of an idea. And I will tell you, having seen what's gone on with my dad, I am such a voracious student of brain health that it's not something that I would have ever paid attention to at all until I really experienced what has happened to my father. It's a shame. He's 83 years old. He's vibrant. He's somebody that has tremendous energy, not as much as he used to, but it's all gone for the most part now because of his brain, not because of his heart, not because of his limbs or whatever. So that's a shame. So the other part that I want to be able to share is, what am I going to do about this? My sister and I are affected by my dad's health and well-being, and all we're trying to do is help him. When this coronavirus thing came about, my kids got really concerned, because they know I'm like my dad. I like to go out and about and run around, and Kim can be happy. She can, as she'll admit, she can be a hermit. She's fine with staying put. I have a harder time with that. I got the whole thing from the kids, like, Dad, promise us, don't go out. They're all worried about, I'm going to go out and get coronavirus. And so I promised them, I said, okay, I will be very careful, wear my mask, wash my hands. I've done all those particular things. But the other part that I really realized I've not been honest with myself and with them about is the fact that on Biggest Loser, I was 100% compliant with my CPAP. After Biggest Loser, I became a smarty pants because I kind of was like, I don't have the same weight on, I still have sleep apnea. I still have severe sleep apnea. I suck at using my CPAP machine. I keep saying that I'm going to use my CPAP machine, and I don't. And here's what's stupid about it. My dad didn't know that he had sleep apnea. By the time he found it out and things were already going downhill, we were able to mitigate as best we could with what Dr. Amos and his team did to really help him have a better quality of life for a longer amount of time. I knew literally almost 9 years ago that I sleep apnea. For 9 years, I've really done not much to make sure that I mitigated that, okay? So in honoring my father in the same way that he asked me to do him a favor a long time ago, even though he doesn't know I'm asking, even though he doesn't know I'm going to do this thing that actually he might have asked me. So when his mom was dying of lung cancer, because at the time I was a pretty voracious smoker, this was a long time ago, 36 years ago, I stopped smoking. I was up to 3 packs a day of cigarettes. And so when my grandmother was dying, he said to me, Jay, when people say to you, what can you do for me? He said, here's what you can do for me. Quit smoking. I was like, oh. So I quit. And then a month later on the beach one day, I snuck a pack of cigarettes and I kind of casually pulled them out while I was on the beach, and Kim saw them and she was like, I had quit for a month, but I pulled them out, thought it'd be like, well, we got a cigarette. She got mad, crushed them up, whole big scene, whatever. But after that time, I quit. So 36 years ago, my dad asked me a favor and I listened to him, and I'm forever grateful for that. Jenny was the one that asked me to get on Biggest Loser. It wasn't my idea. And luckily, quite frankly, she pretty much saved my life, because at that time, being almost 435 pounds and going further, having sleep apnea, not having had it diagnosed yet, I was given a script 2 years before because I wanted sleeping pills because I couldn't sleep well. And the doctor's like, no, I'm not going to give you sleeping pills. Here, you need to go to a sleep test. I'm like, I didn't want to go to a sleep test. I never got to sleep test. I didn't learn about it until I was on Biggest Loser. I learned about it. I was 1,000% compliant with it. I lost the weight. I pretty well maintained most of it, staying off. And I've been a smartass ever since, not doing anything about sleep apnea. So I love my kids. I don't want my kids to go through the same thing my sister and I are going through in the whole world of sleep apnea, cause strokes. Who knows what could happen, because every time I go to sleep at night, I'm not getting good rest, and I'm probably frying my brain like it happened to my dad. And like I said, he's only 19 months in front of me. So I didn't bring in the CPAP machine, but I brought in the little water thing. If anybody knows about the CPAP, I still have the CPAP machine from Biggest Loser. Probably it'd be smart if I checked into having a newer machine besides the 9-year-old machine. But I bring this out because, in the spirit of honoring my father and the way that he shared with me what it is to create a life that you love, which I do love my life, and living it well. And I do live my life pretty well based upon what I do now versus what I used to. This is a missing ingredient. And so to my kids, to my wife, to my family, to my sister, to all the people that have been amazing in supporting me on my well-being journey, I, on my honor, pledge that I will use my CPAP every night from here on out, and I will look into getting a new CPAP machine, and I will be an advocate to support others in the same thing, because it seems like such a silly thing to do, because I have to tell you, I have a lot of energy. I don't seem to have a lot of the symptoms of what CPAP is for some people, but I do know, because I've had the tests for it, that they basically say whatever the rate is of my stopping breathing at night, it's pretty brutal. So I'm frying my brain, and I'm probably hurting my heart, even though it's not showing up yet. But there will come a day of reckoning. So I am practicing what I'm preaching. I am going to be using the CPAP, and I will be continuing in these going beyond the scale, which is the purpose of this. It's not just about what you weigh, but it's the way in which you create a plan and you live out your life well, in the way that you're being about all the aspects of your health, whether it's mental health, physical health, all of that. And that's what I'm an advocate for here. And I'll put myself out there as a guinea pig, and I will call myself out when I'm really not walking my talk. So thank you today for being here. I want to thank my sister for all the amazing work that she's done in supporting my dad, because he's like 10 minutes away from them. My brother-in-law, Rick, he's been an angel for our family. Rick has done so many things. And my niece, Lauren, who has also helped her mom, where they all kind of live near mom and dad. And so all I can say is, if you have somebody in your life that is older, you want to get your family together, you're not going to figure everything out. It's going to take some conversations. Sometimes it's going to be ugly. We've had some pretty brutal conversations with my mom. It's not always been pretty, but we all hung in there. And the good news is, it may not be perfect, but because of the help and support of many people, it's getting better than it was. And that's all I can say is, do the same thing for yourself. Find others in your family, people outside of your family, put a team together, put an A team together, and do everything you can, as I always say, to create a life you love and that others can love. And everybody, let's join hands and live life well. What the hell else do we have to do? So thank you, until another episode of Going Beyond the Scale. Thanks.